Right, guys, and welcome to another episode on the JST Compete. Here we've got Stephen Fawcett and Jack Cornthwaite and myself, Kyle Clark. Today's topic, we're going to be going over a bit of motivation and what keeps us going in the gym, and especially in these times where we've just been told we've got another 4 weeks or so of gyms not being reopened. So I'll start with Jack, if you want to take it. What sort of keeps you motivated or keeping you going at this moment?
Yeah, I just want to dive in a little bit first, like what kind of you two felt like when they said, right, gyms aren't going to open on the 4th of July. Like, what were your immediate thoughts, Kyle? Like, what were you kind of, do you know what I mean?
Like, just how bored I am. I was waiting to get a bit more structure, even just to my day-to-day life, instead of sitting around. Because I feel with that, then my training will pick up anyway, because I'll just get back into a swing of things and that. But when you're sort of sitting around for a long period of time, it's just a bit more like, I was pretty deflated, to say the least.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of felt the same, didn't they? Like straight away when you went on Instagram and Facebook after, you could just see like all the people kind of kicking off, oh, why gym's open and everything. Whereas we've had that little kind of 20 seconds before the training session where we get everything out, and it's kind of trying to get our heads back down and get back to work. But obviously we're going to talk about motivation and trying to keep it a little bit more today. But I've definitely, especially as the time's going on, like motivation does start to wane a little bit, and it's looking at other forms of exercise, not just like the program, but bits around it as well that are going to kind of supplement it when I come back into the gym. For me, kind of the bike rides and stuff we see have kind of really helped. What about you, Steve? What your initial kind of thoughts? And
when they announced that yesterday, it was a bit of a shock. We've been told a few times at the beginning of July, July the 4th, a few things they've been like rumoured. I think I was more just like frustrated. I mean, I'm sat here in a frigging fully kitted out home gym, so people are probably saying, "Well, why are you annoyed?" But I was more frustrated for everyone else on the program. So I know that they've been kind of struggling. The guys that have got just the odd bit of equipment at home, and they've been plugging away and sticking with it and trying to do whatever they can to stay fit. And then it's just like another bit of a kicking the balls and an extra couple of weeks possibly. I keep having to go with it, so just frustrated on that sense. Just want to get cracking and get the guys together and get some group training with the guys on the program. Everyone always enjoys that, so it's a good crack. Whether we would be able to do it in the same fashion for a while, I'm not sure, but just a bit of frustration. I can kind of understand why they're doing things like open pubs and takeaways before gyms, as much as we don't want to hear it. It's just there's less chance of infection. Simple as that. You go into a CrossFit gym, people are sweating like mad. The sweat flying. Well, when I train, there's sweat flying everywhere. Heavy. You're touching this, that, and the other bits of equipment. You can disinfect everything all you like, but there's going to be a higher risk of infection. I would have thought they should just do it at the same time, to be honest, but
they probably will like stagger it, won't they? I guess because they'll be like, right, if there's kind of less people breathing on each other, like phlegm and everything going everywhere in gyms, obviously that's higher risk. If like we see what it's like when like pubs and stuff open again. Oh, is it going to spike? No, it's fine. Right, we can open gyms next.
You can't tell me 4 or 5 days deep in, and there's going to be people cuddling. Oh, I've seen you a month. Come here.
Surely, like when the gyms reopen, there's going to have to be people going to have spaces between each other and sharing equipment. surely there's got to be rules in a pub where you have so many drinks as what you're allowed, because everyone, as soon as they get bladdered,
And I know Hannah works in Manchester, and I think there's like the council are giving special licenses so people can, so pubs can serve people and they can stand outside and drink, because usually they can use like the whole street and places are going to be blocked off and stuff. So I think if you can drink outside, it is less risk, isn't it, and stuff. So I think.
But then I think on the other hand, I don't think the government kind of understand that there's things like CrossFit gyms, and there's boot camp style gyms and functional fitness gyms around the world, and they can run things a bit differently to your total fitnesses and your DWs and your big global gyms. Whether they should come to the same bracket, not sure, but is what it is.
It is what it is.
But yeah, motivation-wise, for me, although I've got access to a gym, I think. So what we're in now, we're in like end of June, through March, April, and towards like the majority of May. Like I was, flying motivation. And I think in my head, I'd had that set that I was going to be competing through those months anyway. I had a couple of competitions lined up. So just kind of like kept the ball rolling and kept training. And then I had planned for pretty much the whole of June to be kind of like off or deload or, just getting out on my bike more and having that as like an off season. And I tried to keep training through that. I think because I previously just decided that I was going to have some time off, and that's what kept me going through March, April, May. When I tried to push through and train, and I was just like, part of me was just like, nah. So I've just, like I said, getting on my bike more, still training, still doing bits, not putting the pressure on myself to have to, lift big weight or, get certain scores in workouts or hit certain paces, anything like that. Just training, keep myself moving, and probably time it right so that when gyms do open again, I can up it. But I think that's a big point that people need to realise. So we've had a lot of people on the programme saying that they're struggling with motivation to train, which is fully understandable. I mean, people that are stuck at home with the odd piece of equipment, from what they used to, it's a lot different. But I think I always found it better if I planned out kind of ahead of time, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months ahead of time. And the further away that the plan got, then the more vague it could be. But then, for the next month, I would plan out my training schedule, when I'd be training, when I'd be working, or when I'd be doing certain things. And if I put a little bit, an hour or so of time into that and really planned it out, it got me excited to want to get stuck into it. I could see like a bit of a path and where I would be doing certain sessions. So because I could see that in ahead of time, it kept me focused really. And I remember I've done that, and that's probably how I got myself into programming so much, because I used to just sit down and just like, right, when I do certain styles of sessions, when I do strength, when I do weightlifting, when I'll be doing more CrossFit style workouts, and just kind of plan my weeks and have a bit of a structure and kind of roll with that until I feel like it needed to take a change. So just sitting down and making a plan. Obviously, we're going to do the programming and training for you, but I plan more of just like when to sit down and when you're going to put an hour away to do a bit of training at home. When you're going to put a couple hours to spend with your family or your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and just kind of putting a bit more structure in your day and your week. And it does help. It just keeps you, and it doesn't necessarily give you loads of motivation, but just by having that little bit of routine and structure, you're more likely just to stick in and keep plodding away. And then on top of that, like we've said in numerous times before, is don't throw yourself with loads of expectations to have to do 2 or 3 hours of training per day. Like, set yourself an hour. If you feel like you can keep going after an hour and you've got more stuff to do and you feel good, energy's good, and you want to do more, then crack on and do more. But if you get to an hour, feel a bit tired, a bit knackered, then just leave it there. You've trained, you've got an hour in the bank. You know, that hour's not that hour. No one's taking that hour away from you. That's there to stay. And you come back the next day and you get another hour. Just don't feel the need to, you know, we touched on it with the lifestyle stuff on the last podcast. Don't feel the need to copy what the professional and the semi-professional, the top athletes are doing. If it's not something that's going to replicate, you know, how you live your life and what's going on.
I think like I mentioned in the newsletter last week about kind of the basics and stuff like that as well for training.
Yeah.
So it could be the case now. Like we've got kind of 4 weeks. Obviously, motivation wasn't where it was 8 weeks ago or whatever. Like you said, Steve, you know, it might just be a max of an hour a day that you're kind of training. But like you say, if you're planning it out, it could be like, right, I know I need to do these squat mechanics here, and then I'm just going to do the workout off the program today because that's all, you know, I just want to get 45 minutes in or whatever. Tomorrow, it could be like, right, I'm going to do the home gymnastics stuff because I've not been on a rig for a while or anything like that. You know, 4 weeks, it's not that long now, but enough time to kind of start, you know, building a base, decent base. And then again, like you do the workout or you go on a bike ride or go for a run, one of the, you know, add-on programs or additional programs that's just going to give you that bit of structure. So you can be like, right, done that core work, just going to go out for a run now. Like, you know, the running programs there, it's 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, like easy peasy. Don't have to really think about it. But just by saying like, right, I'm going to do squat mechanics, workout, core work, running. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of general outline of the whole week, where you're getting that routine back and that structure that's going to, you know, just make it a bit easier for yourself.
Yeah, I think you know what we've struggled with in writing the programs is making sure we've got something that's going to cover everyone's situation. So, you know, we've got people that have got access to majority of stuff, so they can probably follow the program as usual. And then you've got people who've got a dumbbell, some people without a dumbbell. So if you look in the program, when you look on one day, there's like sometimes there's 7 sections to the day because we've got the home version, then we've got the weightlifting, then you've got gymnastics, we've got warm-ups in there. If you've got the squat mechanics, that might be in there. If you've got the gymnastics at home, that might be in there. So you can look at it and go, oh, fucking hell. If you just wake up that day and look at what you're going to train today, you've got 8 things to do. Like, well, I can't be asked doing all 8 of them, and I've not got time for that. So that's what we're saying, just sitting down and saying, right, I'm going to do this section Monday, and then with this section Tuesday, and kind of just like individualizing, you know, the content that we're putting in just to suit your current situation that's going on. You know, it's not like normal life right now, is it? Everyone's not got access to a gym with full equipment and a couple of hours or an hour or whatever per day. Everyone's in a different situation. So just take what we're putting in the program and what we've got available that we're giving you. Pick the bits that one are best suited to you to help you keep improving and progressing, and 2 potentially just what you enjoy doing. If you can have a bit of a mixture of that stuff that you enjoy and stuff that you know you need to do, and you can just concentrate on getting a good quality hour at least per day. And just go and just take it day by day and just try and, you know, we've said a few times previously about building momentum. So if you have a goal of just to do 5 1-hour sessions per week, you know, start with that, just to do 5 1-hour sessions and just complete them. And then you can start looking into, right, now I'm in the routine of completing them and doing the sessions. I can start looking like pushing my performance or some expectation a little bit in those sessions. So I want to, you know, lift at least this way, but at lift, let's say I want to snatch at least 80 kilos on this complex. But making sure that those, we call them min-tinned, but those like weights and expectations and little goals that you're setting are, very much achievable, but you still have to kind of dial in and focus to hit them. And then just go, and off the back of that, just keep building that momentum and keep going. And before you know it, a month's passed and you've got, a really good solid month of training in. And then by that time, gyms might open, and then you're going into the gym, throwing down with your mates and all your buddies at the gym, and you're able to perform. You're able to perform pretty well because you've managed to keep in decent routine, build a bit of momentum, not kind of put loads of stress on doing this, that, and the other. And then because you've not done that, when you do get into gym, you'll probably feel like you want to send it. But I think it's just important you just take each day by day and just not think, another full 4 weeks at least before we go into the gym. Just focus day by day on what you can do. And then, when things open up, flame.
See, gyms are probably, even in 4 weeks, are still going to look very different. So some people will still probably be training at home as such as well, wouldn't they, still over that sort of time. So, I mean, it is looking like gyms won't just open just like that. There'll still be certain guidelines, won't there? So just keeping that motivation, what we're going on about now, will obviously steer you over for like this next period of time. As we go through.
I think obviously if you're comfortable as well, meet up with some of your friends from the gym and do one of the home workouts in the park with a dumbbell if you've got a dumbbell. Do you know what I mean? Like we can start to see other people and like use that to train together. If if that's what you really enjoy doing is training with other people, like start to incorporate that in your weekly routine, once a week, something like that. Like today's perfect, it's super sunny. Just going to take one dumbbell, go to the park, meet, two of my other friends, keep our distance.
Yeah.
Like you set a clock though, know exactly what you're going to do when you get there. Set your clock and just go through it. Because otherwise you'll get there and no doubt you'll be like, oh, it's quite nice. Have a plan when you get there.
Definitely. I know we're looking into it like at this sort of time, obviously because of what's going on. But if let's dive into like motivation in the side of a competitive season. So, we're just thinking outside a little bit. Especially you guys, how did you guys stay motivated in off season when it was like the classic format of regionals and games, etc., or the open regional games? Certain like things that you would do to keep yourself motivated for a season ahead, if you like.
Yeah, I remember in 2011 I did a competition in Sweden, and the second event was 4-minute AMRAP of shuttle runs, 10-meter shuttle runs, rest a minute, 4 minutes AMRAP of double unders, rest a minute, and then 4 minutes to hit max clean and jerk. And I failed a 102 kilo jerk.
Right.
There's a video going around somewhere. I put 105 on, failed the clean, put 102 on, cleaned it, went to jerk it, landed on my back, and I thought, well, it's ground to overhead, so I went behind the neck, jerk it, and then missed that one as well. Then before I knew it, the 4 minutes was over. And anyway, so I left that competition just being like, I got cut maybe the workout later because, I'd scored 0. And I'd spent all this money to go to Sweden and compete. And on the plane home, I sat down and I wrote down on my notes section on my phone all the things that I need to get, that I need to work on. And I'd watch the competitors for the rest of the competition and seeing what the stand was like, what people were doing, and just kind of like just gauge myself from where I am currently to where I want to get to, and just like, right, well, I need to work on these many movements. Want to be able to hit this way, or this pace or whatever. And then when I get back into the gym, just going to start creating a bit of a training schedule and a bit of a plan to work towards them. So my motivation always then became more like performance related, like my own performance related, off the back of like a results, a competition, and seeing, like we mentioned, I can't remember the last podcast, when you were talking about like how do you know when you're going to be good enough, seeing like the level of the people that were above me, and like comparing myself a little bit to them, like grasping where I am, and then making a plan to get there, rather than just always focusing on the other people. And I'm not always comparing like where they are, but like they're where I want to be. So for me to get there, I need to be able to do what they're doing at least, and then more. So then just creating a plan and performance goals. So just being like, right, if let's say my front squat was 100 kilos, then I want to get to 110 kilos. So I get to 110 kilos, I'm more likely to be able to clean 105, and then I'm probably more likely to jerk it. And just like little goals like that. Not stuff like I want to be able to clean and jerk 150, like a 50 kilo PB. Obviously, that might be a lifetime goal, but just shorter, more shorter term or medium term achievable goals, that are just going to help me, keep ticking along the way, and keep me getting my head down in training and just working towards them. And if the goals aren't too far away and you feel like you're getting closer to them, you're more likely to keep pushing to them, rather than saying that, saying like, right, I want to clean and jerk. So I can clean and jerk 102. Then I want to clean and jerk 150. Right, 47.5 kilos. How hard is it as well? 47.5 kilos and clean and jerk. It's going to feel like a lifetime. And it was actually 5 years, and it took me 5 years to get to 150. Got there eventually. But imagine me setting a goal in 2011 that I want to clean and jerk 150 as the next goal. I'd have just sacked it off, because I would have failed 110 numerous times, 115, and I'd just be like, fuck this, I'm never getting anywhere near 150. But it was always like a 2.5 kilo increment, a 5 kilo increment of goal that I would set, and just doing that same thing for everything. So like your rowing paces, scores on a 7-minute burpee AMRAP, that was a big benchmark back then, for burpees. How many muscle ups can I do unbroken, and adding 1 rep or 2 reps to my max set, and just kind of like bite-sized little goals that are just built up along the way. They're going to add to what they did add to me, is to get into I got to 163 clean and jerk from 6 years later, from failing 102 in a competition. I added 60 kilos, and it wasn't like, it was never my goal to get to 163. I just wanted to always clean and jerk more than I could. And just by doing that in small little increments, just helped me keep progressing. And to be honest, when it was the Open Regionals games, you had that big I always finished at regionals for me for the majority of the time. From regionals to the next Open, it was a long time. It was like end of May. We'd come round to the end of February is when we'd be open again. So it was a long time. But a lot of athletes now, they need something that's like 2 or 3 months away to keep them focused. But to me, I saw that I could improve even more. In 7 months, I could improve way more than if I was to compete in 2 or 3 months' time. And I just kept myself kind of in line and focused by those small kind of incremental goals.
almost goals within goals, isn't it? Like you said, like what we're saying about weekly goals, as in like set yourself weekly goals instead
Yeah.
of like what your outcome wants to be in 6 months' time. We're like, okay, that's cool, but how are we going to get there? Let's do it
Yeah.
weekly to get us and keep us on track.
Yeah. And to be honest, for those years, it was very much performance based. And now, if I think about it, it's more just consistency based because I've got a lot more going on in my life now. And for me to keep in good shape and, you know, perform well, I just need to be consistent. So I'm doing, how can I do things that are going to keep me training, getting like a certain amount in each day. That's what's going to help me progress now, rather than just kind of chasing like, right, I'm going to try and chase Jack to his 220 kilo back squat, which is on the brink of hitting. At the moment, you know, there's no chance. So I would just be like, right, well, I'll just get 2 back squat sessions in this week and not really focus on hitting huge numbers, just getting them in. And know there'll be a time comes around again where I can start focusing on performance. So it's just like, it's reflecting on your current situation and your life and where you're at and where you want to be, and setting goals that are relevant to them. Yeah.
I think the other key thing is, you know, everything that you just said, Steve, is that it's all intrinsic. It's like you want to do better and to see where you can get.
Yeah.
You're not doing it for the gram or
yeah.
you know what I mean, to look good for somebody else or anything like that. You're doing it to see how far, see how far you could get, how far you can push yourself. Because when, like, for all CrossFitters, you know, when we do a really hard workout, or, you know, if we PB whatever, or if we've done a hard squat session, it gives us like a deep, you know, sense of satisfaction, and it motivates you more. Yeah. Like, people see CrossFitters as a bit weird because they're like, you know, why they always end up on the floor after the workout, but, you know, we always feel like good after. You feel like, oh, you know, I've done really good there. I've tried really hard.
Yeah.
Like, it does give you that more motivation. Yeah. And it's kind of that self kind of discipline that you give yourself, like your routine, that little plan, those little goals. That's where, like, you know, that self-improvement comes, and you just kind of, you keep getting that little bit better. And again, that's where that motivation kind of, you know, it comes back in. It's just a little circle, and you just, you know, keep going round it.
I remember actually something that I've always done is like always reflection on a training session that you've done. And in my mind, I've never really written it down. Or sometimes I've written the odd thing down, but, you know, like, let's just take like a 30-minute EMOM, for example. Like, after that, you know, I'd sit and go, right, let's say it was, you know, a standard one on ours is 15 or 12 cal row, 60 double unders, 12 burpee box jumps, 30 minutes. And it's like, that's 120 burpee box jumps, 150 cal row, and 600 double unders done. All right, and just by me then reflecting and looking, it's like, oh, right, I did all of those sets of 60 double unders unbroken, or, you know, I did at least 8 of them sets unbroken. You know, all the burpees were done in 35 to 40 seconds, and I was pulling 1500 calories on a rower. Like, and then by just reflecting and being like, right, I've got all that done. There was that intensity at that pace. Like, I've done that now. It's in the bank. And no, it's not leaving me unless I stop training for a few weeks. So, like, it's there, it's set, and then I'd go on to a weightlifting session. And I remember actually when I started doing some of weightlifting 101s training camps, after one of the sessions, I sat down and worked out how many forms of snatch I did in that snatch session, and it was like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, like 400 or 500 snatches. You know, a lot of them were an empty bar or 40 kilos. But it's just by reflecting and knowing, like, right, just done 500 snatches in that session. You know, I've just done 100 snatches at, you know, a certain weight. And by looking back, it kind of gives you that spurs, like I've just done that, I've accomplished that, and it gives you that bit of motivation to keep that going a little bit. Bit like last night, and over this last week of going doing some cycling. Look back, and I'm fairly addicted to Strava right now because it just gives you all of that. Like you don't have to work anything out. It gives you average speed, average watts, heart rate, where it's going up and down, like how long it took to do each segment. And it's just like, by looking back, I look at that data and it gives me a buzz to like build on from that, and and keep going and try and beat little bits I've done, or and I think it's just the same. Obviously a lot of the data can't just be like flipped up on your phone straight away from what you've just done in your session. You get your heart rate data and stuff like that, but you might have to work out reps and distances and that you've done. But just spending 10 minutes after a session just to reflect with how you've done, give yourself a pat on the back for stuff that you feel like you did well, and maybe just identify some areas that next time when a similar session comes across, and do a little bit better on this or that.
Yeah, so shout out to Chris Wills and Tricky Ricky for this, but I've recently it's called the 6-minute diary, and you spend 3 minutes in the morning, you write kind of 3 things that like you're going to do that day, something else, I can't remember off the top of my head, and in the evening, you give yourself, 3 things that you kind of reflect on, and like what went well, and then 3 things that you can kind of improve on. And it's 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the evening, and it's 6 minutes. 6 minutes of your day is nothing. It doesn't actually take that long to do. If do you know what I mean? And I've actually found that it does actually make you feel a bit more positive, and you're like, right, I'm actually going to do this today, or right, I've reflected on today. This didn't go so well, or that did go well, and it is actually really good for the 6 minutes that you do spend up doing it. And it's just the moment for like mindset, especially if you're struggling with motivation. Just that little bit of positivity again. It's just it's
to build on
big for me. I know. Yeah.
When I go through stages where if we've got a lot on, and I'm trying to like keep everything in my head, like I've got to write these programs, or I've got to reply to these emails, or I've got to sort this with the house, and I just think all these things in my head that I've got to do, and then you get a bit kind of like overwhelmed, and then a bit kind of run down because you're trying to like remember all these things. And a bit similar to Jack there is, Fran always tells me to do it. I can always forget to do it, but when you get into that point where you feel like there's so much to do, and you're just feeling overwhelmed, then you just write it down, and you write down the most important things that you need to do the next day, whether it's 3 of them, 5 of them, write them down, and then when it comes to the next day, you can crack on, you do those 5 jobs, and then once you've done those 5 jobs, you can be like, right, what's the most important 5 things I need to do for tomorrow? And then you start working through it, and before you know it, because you've written them down, a lot of that is just dumped out of your brain. You're not going round and round in circles. And before you know it, you're on track. You've done all the jobs that you need to do, and you feel like you had 1,000 million things to do. You actually only had 7 or 8, but just because they were going round in your head 100 times each, felt like 1,000. And you get them done, and then you feel happy yourself then, and that's motivation. Because when you get to the point where fucking flies pissing me off, you get to the point where
I thought he was just doing that.
it kept fucking hitting me. You get to the point where you feel there's loads going on, and it drains you, and you just like, oh, I can't be arsed. Well, that's how I get sometimes anyway, and by just sitting down, whether it's training, stuff in your training or stuff in your life, sit down, you then ticked off. You do become happier, and because you feel like you're more in control of what you're doing, and you can see kind of, see where you're going in your week's work or your week's training.
like you say, like say we got everyone to write 2 things, day to day that you're gonna do for today, like with work or whatever. Write 2 things for training. That's 4 things. Like if you get them 4 things done, you're gonna feel way better than like you say, if it's just going around your head. And when you do write stuff down as well, and you get it done, you tend to get it done a lot quicker. And then you've got all this other free time as well, and you're like, oh, I've actually got another 20 minutes for training today as well, and you're like, oh, this is class. You do feel way better. It's good.
It's just giving, like I say, it's giving more routine, giving more organisation today. I've actually gone now. What day is it?
It's 23rd?
24th today.
4th.
So probably a month without Instagram on my phone. I go on it now and again to check on the computer, checking any messages or notifications, but I found myself just not scrolling, just endless hours of just like scrolling and looking at this, that and the other that really doesn't help your life. If anything, just hinders. And I've found myself using that time to do stuff that I need to do, whether it's work, training, be with the family. So I just be aware of the time that you're on social media. I'm not saying social media is bad. There's a lot of good things for it, but do you just find yourself just sat there wasting an hour of your life just scrolling when you could be doing something that's, like I said, you could be filling in a 6-minute diary in that time. You could be prepping a little bit of decent food, with something in there that's going to make you feel better, rather than just whipping something up quick. Just be aware of the draining exercise and the draining things, and social media is one of them that you're doing that can just kind of get you feeling stuck in a bit of a rut.
Yeah, definitely. I've always sort of took that approach with what you guys said. I've done it for quite a few years of writing things down, which I've always found that helps. Every day I've always got a plan with work that we're doing, etc. So yeah, the feeling of actually doing them tasks is almost spurs you on to do more, if you like.
Yeah.
And keep going.
Does. I remember actually, my dad used to, when I was a kid, my dad used to do it. He used to always write everything down. I used to take a mick out of him. So why just remember it? Why do you have to write it down to make yourself breakfast in the morning?
Yeah.
Remember to have breakfast in the morning, but I think it's just him getting structure in his day, to make sure he does this, that, and the other. And we're probably all getting older and we more things on our hands, and got to a point where we probably have to start writing down. Because when you're 10, you don't give a fuck, do you?
Yeah. Everything goes when you're younger.
Yeah.
Don't need a plan. I know we're sort of keeping it into that topic of sort of where we are now, current situations, but I've even got just a question that especially you guys that have done the competing in that, when you've had injuries or slight niggles, how have you kept that motivation to train when you feel like it's such a setback? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that get niggles, and it becomes that sort of, you think, oh God, or another one, and you sort of think, well, I can't do that, and that focus sort of goes. So I'm just wondering, like, what did you guys sort of do in them situations?
Yeah. Steve, do you want to go first? Because your shoulder one's probably it was a biggie, that, wasn't it, really?
Yeah. I mean, I think I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but I think first of all, you got to accept your injury. Like, you've got to accept that it is a thing. You've got this injury, and you've got to accept what you can't do. And as soon as you've accepted what you can't currently do, you can start focusing on what you can do. And just, working with what you can do, and like I said, I'm repeating myself, but just setting little goals that are achievable that you can do with exercises that you also can do, and just setting just focusing on them then, and then as you progress and you rehabbing and you're doing your exercises, whatever your injury is, a goal is like, for me, a goal was to be able to do a press up when I had my shoulder surgery, is to be able to do a press up. And it started off me on the wall and doing press ups on the wall. Like, this was like 2 weeks after surgery, but there's barely any. If you ever try doing a press up just standing against the wall, there's barely any resistance, because obviously you stood up, and you're basically just moving your arms like this. There's nothing going through your shoulders, so to speak. And then progress that down the wall, and doing different positions with my hands to make sure the shoulder got strong in every position. And I remember 2 weeks after surgery, I did a full press up on my feet, no pain, and that was like a big thing for me. It's like 2 weeks post surgery, I can do press ups, or I could do a press up. I couldn't do many of them, do one, and it's just like then building on from that. What can I do next? This kind of range back here and coming across was quite hard for me. So it was just like, right, can I reach out to, snatch position and come back with a press? Like, just doing that was painful, and I couldn't quite do it for a long time. It was just starting, like, getting exercises that are goals that are, it wasn't, I want to get back to snatching with an empty bar. It was, I want to be able to put my hand there with no, weight in the hand, and just like those small, again, just the small incremental goals. But I think the main thing is just accepting you can't do things. There's going to be things you can't do for a long time, and just not getting wound up about it. It'll be annoying, it'll be frustrating, and a bit upsetting. But it is what it is. You've got an injury. You can either sit on it and dwell on it and cry about it for a couple of months, or you can have a couple of days where you're a bit emo and you accept it, and then you crack on. You get to work. You push. You get to work on the stuff that you can do, and you gradually get yourself back. And again, little goals day by day. Before I knew it, I was 3 months in, and I could hold a freestanding handstand hold longer than Jack.
And I just remember we did some strict handstand push-ups. Like, I think it was like 4 or 6 months after you'd had your surgery, and you were knocking out more than what I was doing. I was thinking, what a joke this is. This guy's not doing a handstand push-up for months.
I do remember actually on my shoulder surgeries. It's like, I hadn't had many injuries in my career. The main thing was just a bit of like a back and a hip niggle, and that was mainly from football, which was carried through into CrossFit. The shoulder surgery for a couple of years ago was my main thing, and I remember thinking, people they do rehab like 2-3 hours a day rehab to get this better, and I probably did 10 minutes a day for the first 2 months. I didn't even do that. Some days I didn't do anything. But like just moving my arm around was enough. I wasn't trying to push things faster than I felt that it could go. There was a lot of time where I just didn't train because I didn't feel like I wanted to, and I don't think I wanted to train. And it was whether it was my body just telling me. I gave my body more time and energy just to recover. Like it had surgery, there'd been ligaments and whatever stitched together in here. This fucking flies back here. And if I was then blasting my legs 2 or 3 hours a day, I'm taking away. I'm adding stress to my body, and I'm taking away what could be just recovery on the injury. And I know it's not an easy thing to take, to tell someone who's got an injury just to not train, or just you know, I class it as not training, but the things that I was doing, just raising my arm up like this while I was watching TV, or, you know, while I was cooking a piece of toast, you know, it's training, because it was getting me towards my goals, but it wasn't doing anything that was, you know, going to set me back and prolong the process. I think if I'd hit a setback about 2 or 3 months in, where, you know, something got really painful and I went back, then I think my motivation would have struggled. But I never put myself in that position where, you know, the injury was going to go backwards. I think injury-wise, I can't remember you about the odd kind of back, little niggle.
The knee.
Yeah, knees.
Between us, to be honest, we've not actually had any injuries as such that that's happened because of us, really.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We like you said, the odd issue with like your back and stuff, maybe if we didn't keep up with movement work or something like that. But other than that, we've done all right between us, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think it's luck, to be honest.
No,
I think,
it's not.
you know, the stuff that we go through when we're talking about, you know, training habits and, you know, mindset stuff. It all kind of adds up to making sure you're doing the right amount of training or training quality, or, you know, when you're pushing hard, when we're not pushing hard. All those things are what contribute to injuries, especially in CrossFit. Like, you don't really find many just like my shoulder surgery came about because I went to a Marines base in Devon, and it was videoing some documentary, and the Marine put my arm in an armbar and dislocated my shoulder. Like, it had nothing to do with CrossFit. My shoulders are now like probably the strongest area of my body compared to everywhere else. So there's no like pre-existing weakness there. It just, some man put me in an armbar and dislocated my shoulder. But you don't get that in CrossFit, really. You don't just get like random out of nowhere injuries like you might get in sports, where, you know, I've had surgery on my right ankle because someone came in and two-footed me because I was running too fast for him. And, you know, in rugby, I think, Jack, you broke your leg, didn't you, in playing rugby in school?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You don't break bones. It's rare to see people break bones or get bad injuries from CrossFit. Everything is like repetitive injuries where they've kind of got bad movement patterns and they've just put volume on top of that bad movement pattern. It's got to a point where, you know, whatever it is, a certain muscle group or certain ligaments, certain tendons, they're just going through too much at that point. Like, it's injuries in CrossFit are just from kind of neglecting areas.
People not listening to the bodies, really.
Yeah, not listen to bodies, not listen to kind of advice.
That was me, 100%. I've got both my shoulders. I've still got tendon pain still now. That's why I'm not doing much. But yeah, it's I know for a fact that was me not listening and pushing, and it's nothing more than that. Just not it's bad lifestyle, like, you're not as in training too much volume.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I just ignored it. I just carried on going, and it's actually to the point where now it's like I physically can't mentally keep doing it, if you know what I mean. Like, my brain's just like, nah, you've got to address it before anything else.
Yeah. I think it's a hard one in CrossFit because, you know, there's going to be times in training, if you're going to compete, like, if you're going to compete to a decent level, you're going to have to put your body through training when there's majority of the time you probably shouldn't train, but there's going to have to be times where you just train because you need to just keep, you know, you need to keep this volume, or you need to put your body under a certain amount of fatigue for it to adapt. And I'm saying this probably more so is for the semi-pro, the people that go in sanctionals or higher type athlete. I don't think this is needed for people that are currently below that level. there's going to be points where, you know, my left knee screamed at me for probably 6 months. And there's times in that 6 months where I laid off, you know, got it feeling a bit better, and, you know, got the pain away. And there's times when I was a couple of months before competition where I just have to deal with it, and just crack on. Yeah. Like I'm saying, it's not a healthy way to go about it. But at the top of sport, sometimes there's got to be times where you just got to plow on and accept that you're in pain and deal with it when the competition when the competition is over. But I think the problem comes because they kind of see that message where athletes are just kind of, you know, they're doing whatever they can to work around injuries, but they're doing it all year. Whereas I didn't do it all year. I just did it when I needed to. Like, I had no choice but to go through it, like a few months before competition. And this is where I give the gimmicks quite a bit of hassle. You know, your massage guns, your floss bands, your foam rollers, you know, little gimmicks that you can spend a lot of money in, your complexes and the likes of those things. Probably shouldn't have name dropped. But like these are all things like, yeah, they are effective. They probably have a good use, but at the right time, like I have used a complex before, a red dot actually.
What?
Power dot. I've used one, and it was on competition weekend because my shoulder was hanging off. It was killing me. This was before I said I'd never had a shoulder issue, but I had a shoulder issue killing me. I'd bar muscle-ups to do the next day, and I was in Cyprus, and if I won this competition, I won $2,000, and I was sorted. So I was like, right, well, I'm gonna get this power dart, whatever it's called, on my shoulder, and even if it's just a placebo effect, and I'm gonna feel like it's got better, I'm gonna do it because I want $2,000. I want to win. And, you know, I'd sit on a foam roller, put a massage ball in there. I've rarely used one in my life before, but just using them at the right time to deal with, you know, the niggle and you know, suppress that injury a little bit, but then not carrying on after the competition for the majority of the rest of the year, covering up that injury with some little electric shocks that really aren't going to have any effect on the area that you're trying to treat. Like, you need to then fix that, and I think that's how I managed to keep competing. At those times when I was in pain, you know, after competition, I'd fix things and be sensible, and hope that then I'd be going into the next competition season without too many niggles. But if niggles did come and they couldn't afford to lay off, then, you know, I wouldn't.
You're addressing the issue with that sort of stuff, aren't you, rather than addressing the problem, are you?
Yeah, exactly.
And it does come with experience, like, but we didn't really have anyone telling us, you know, earlier on, like, look, you know, you're in this pain because of you back in the day, you might have gone to the foam roller and said, but, you know, take our advice. Like, it was that when I kind of started working at JST, and we had a massive off season, and it was probably the strongest I'd ever been, like squatting wise, weightlifting wise, but my knees every single day were in bits, and I didn't kind of know how to address it. I just thought, you know, it's just kind of one of them things where, you know, kind of later on I found that my body doesn't react as well to intensity. So that's when I choose now, if I was, you know, following the program, like up to the open, I'd choose like the lower intensities most of the time. But kind of back from that as well, like my movement work, I wasn't doing any movement work really at all at that point. And stability is obviously the big thing for me. And that by addressing that problem now, and then doing like the squats that I'm doing now, which my goal at the moment, like Steve said before, squat 220. Like my knees haven't felt this good for years, and I'm squatting 5 times a week, like heavy. Do you know what I mean? It's just keep it. My goal at the moment is to squat 220 and just kind of keep healthy, keep a decent aerobic base, and my training sessions, you know, kind of outside in the garden, they're no longer than an hour. It doesn't take an hour to squat and do a little bit of accessory work. So
I think with everything that we say, motivation always comes back to the same thing, doesn't it? Everything's based around the same sort of things you've been speaking about. You know, like making goals within goals, and that's regardless of whether it's to keep motivated for training, competition, injuries, lifestyle. It's all the same, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, we always go off track a little bit in our podcast, but hopefully there's enough in there really for people to understand what we're trying to get across with the motivation, and especially for the guys on the program, isn't it? Obviously, we've read a few messages that some people just lacking a bit of motivation, so we wanted to get something out there, especially for you guys.
Yeah, that's the main thing we started the podcast really, wasn't it? It's because we know it's hard to, you know, we've got different platforms we're getting information across. We've got the newsletter. If you're not on the newsletter, then there's your email address and sign you up, where we give out information, and we've given out information like this for 3 years. You know, not everyone checks an email. We've got Instagram, through Facebook, we're putting out posts, but you know, not everyone can be bothered to sit there and write and read a 200-word post. We've got podcasts, not everyone can be bothered to sit here and listen to us for an hour, but at some point we're going to get the message across to the guys, and that's what we do a lot in the program with yourself, Kyle. Your role as one of the coaches on JST Compete is the interaction and communication, and just, you know, answering questions and giving advice to the guys on the program. And with Fran, who does this similar thing, but to the guys that join the program, and just kind of gives them all the resources and all the information that we give out as coaches. And you know, and then obviously that once the 50 days is up, they progress on, and you look after them.
Yeah.
And I think it was the last podcast. With JST Compete, the main thing I wanted to achieve, or still want to achieve, is making sure that people have all the information, resources, training content, like, you know, the training plans, have everything out there that's available to them. Because, you know, in 2011 there wasn't, and there's quite a few times I learned the hard way, like opening your clean and jerk at 98% of your 1RM after 4 minutes of shuttle runs and double unders. You know, no one told me that was a bad idea. I had to figure it out myself. It ended up being a very expensive bad idea. But I've learned from it, and I'm stopping people. Hopefully it'll stop other people making those wrong mistakes. But yeah, that's what we want to do, is get across much information and advice, and give people the tools to.
We'd like to hear some feedback for what people would like for us to go over a little bit more. If anyone's out there that's listening, hit us up with a few notes, or even send us a message on Twitter. I've had a couple of guys that say, they've really listened to it. It's been awesome. But you know, there might be something that they might think, actually, I'd like to hear something, you know, a bit different from what we're thinking, if you like.
Yeah, we've got a
if
few.
you are listening and you want a topic or so, we can cover. Yeah,
we've got a few topics lined up or so, haven't we? I think we're going to delve into a bit more programming on one of the next ones. You know, how do we, when me and Jack sit down and write a program, kind of like what's the thought process, and how do we make a program for, you know, hundreds of people to follow, and kind of the system that we use for that. and we had one or two other topics as well that I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, we plan to do these for the foreseeable, so we'll just keep firing them in. I think one of them was from Bacon. He said accountability, which actually helps a lot too in motivation. So maybe we can touch a bit more on that on one of the next ones.
Yeah, definitely. Right. How are we feeling now? All good?
Yeah, I think we've got
covered for what we think.
We said we reckon this would be half an hour, but we've done another hour.
Have we really?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Oh well. Once you get into it, it's because Steve talks so much. That's what it is.
You know what? If anyone knows me, I don't talk that much, really.
Neither me nor you do, to be honest.
No, we're not men of many words, really, are we? But
give you a podcast and you're off.
Get me on the screen. Give me time in front of the screen. Give me my fame.
Yeah. Right, cool.
It's just because we've got plenty of experience and what we've done as athletes and coaches, and we just want to get that across to the rest of the guys.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. Check us out on the YouTube channel, Spotify, and we'll see you on the next one.
And give us a little share on your Instagram story, and we'll repost it. Give you
a share.
We'll help you.
Cheeky.
If you help us, give us a few shares.
You scratch our back, and we'll scratch your back.
Yeah.
Right. Toodaloo.
See ya.
See ya.